Hey, what's going on, guys? Ryan again with rpkcustoms.com. I just realized that I have not gone over a Roman Props MK1 on this channel yet. And I actually have two of them on my desk right now. One of them is a static only, and the other one is the FX capable version. So that's what this video is going to be about. Now, the MK1s were never really high on my list of lightsabers to get, just because I was never really a big Obi-Wan fan. I was always more of a Luke fan, so I always gravitated more towards the Luke sabers from the original trilogy. And the V2 was always my number one favorite movie prop ever made, so I always kind of focused more on that. But being in the hobby for a couple of years and seeing a lot of people talking about the MK1, people show a lot of love for it, and I felt like I had to get it and just something I had to have in my collection. So here is my static MK1. And I'm keeping this one pretty much pristine the way it is. My plan for right now is just to let this age naturally. Because this is steel, this will rust over time if I don't keep it oiled. You can see the emitter right here is already picking up a little bit of rust. I'm not sure how that happened. I think I might have got something on that. Maybe salt or something, and it picked up a little bit of rust. But the rest of the hilt is pretty much pristine, just the way it came. This one is the FX capable version, and I am currently in the process of turning this into a highly accurate Chronicles version. So you can see the little brass screw here and right here. And I also have, right there, I also have the holes drilled for the wire to come through the clamp. Now, I was in the middle of working on this when I got the call that my V2 run was done at the machinist, so I had to put this on hold for now. Once I get through my V2s, I'm going to start concentrating more on getting this finished up. But for right now, I'm just going to focus on the static version because that is the version that I'm going to be keeping in my collection. So I got to say right off the bat, when you take this out of the box, this thing feels like an actual weapon. This is the only lightsaber that I've ever held that feels like it could be an actual weapon. Like it could be maybe a firearm or an actual lightsaber. This thing feels like it weighs probably maybe 3-4 pounds, something like that. This thing is heavy. And I feel bad for Alec Guinness having to lug this around on his belt during A New Hope. I'm sure he probably picked up some pretty bruises on his thigh from this thing bouncing around all the time. But I absolutely love the weight. The weight on a saber is really important to me. That's why I machined my new V2s to have a really small ID to add weight to the entire kit. But this thing is probably at least 3 or 4 times heavier than my V2. Like I said, it's all made out of steel. Everything except for the pommel is steel. The pommel is actually plastic, just like on the original prop. And you can see I got the one with the cold cap with the blue ring, just because I thought the blue ring matched Obi-Wan's blue saber. We don't really get any clear shots of what end cap was actually on the original prop. And Roman is nice enough to offer both hot and cold. This was originally a sync knob on the actual prop from Armitage Shanks. And I believe these were sync knobs that were manufactured somewhere in the UK, which is pretty cool. Roman did a really good job on replicating these. There's even a serial number. I don't know how well you can see that right in there, which is pretty cool. This even has the transistors with the accurate markings on them. And this clamp was one of Roman's older clamps. And you can tell by the finish, how it's kind of a dull finish. as opposed to his newer clamps, which look a lot more pristine. But the dull finish doesn't really bother me. Like I said, I'm going to keep this pretty much pristine, and that dull finish kind of adds a little bit of weathering. So the way that the static version is constructed is there's basically a threaded rod that goes all the way down the length of the hilt, all the way to the pommel, and everything kind of screws to that threaded rod. Whereas the FX version is obviously hollowed out for electronics, and there is a steel cage here in the clamp section. The FX one is still pretty heavy. Again, it's still steel. It's just a little bit lighter to accept the electronics inside. And you can see this one has a lot of rust buildup on it. And all that rust is actually natural. I got this one when I still lived down in Florida, and the intense humidity down there was enough to rust this thing out. So if you live in a really humid climate, you're going to want to keep this oiled. I ended up getting this one after I moved to Michigan, and it's not nearly as humid in Michigan as it is in Florida. So this one is still in pristine condition. But I figure by the time I'm, maybe 60, 70 years old, this will have a nice coat of patina all over the hilt. Some people like weathered sabers. Some people like a pristine saber. I'm in the weathered saber camp. I love a good weathered saber. The heavier the weathering, the better. But for some reason, I just like the idea of having this weather naturally over time. So I've had both of these in my collection for quite a while now. This one I picked up last year during a May the 4th sale. And the FX one I've probably had for about 2 or 3 years. As soon as my V2s get done and they're all out the door, I'm going to start focusing on getting this one finished. And this one is going to be on my website for sale. The static version is going to stay in my collection. This one, I don't think I'm ever going to sell, just because I have fallen in love with it. I pulled this out of the box and immediately fell in love with just the weight and the way it feels in hand. It's really nice. Feels like a classic design, almost like the A New Hope Graflex. How that just feels really classic when you're holding it in your hand. And I am also just a really big fan of thin neck sabers. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this, but it also has the stamping around the wind vane. And for those of you who don't know, the MK1 was originally built out of real-world parts. So the pommel was a sink knob, again, manufactured somewhere in Europe. The booster section was part of radiator fins from a machine gun. The Graflex clamp was obviously from a Graflex camera flash. The grenade section, all the way up to the base of the emitter, was a German grenade. And the emitter was from a Rolls-Royce jet engine. And if you are to find a real parts Obi-Wan for sale now, they can be as high as $15,000, $16,000. Just because the parts are extremely rare to come by now. I think the emitter is the hardest part to come by. And those go for quite a bit of money. But I am happy with a replica. Roman did a fantastic job replicating these MK1s. I'm pretty sure he took real world parts and just reverse engineered them. So this is a 1-for-1 replica of the actual prop, which is pretty cool. So yeah, just a short video today. Like I said, I hadn't gone over an MK1 yet, and I really wanted to kind of go over one and show them off. So thanks for watching, guys. May the force be with you.